But public service is something that it was ingrained in us to just do better. And you know, one of my favorite sayings, and we heard one of my favorites from Dr. Martin Luther King, was from President Lyndon Johnson, who says that we in public service are measured by how we take care of people in the dawn of their lives, the children, how we take care of people in the twilight of their lives, the seniors and the elders, and how we take care of people in the shadows of life, those that are poor and disabled. And all of us, even though we're all different, and we have different opinions, we all share the common goal of trying to help people. And, you know, when I think of Mark Pacheco, I always remember September 11th, 2001. Where was I? That happened to be a Tuesday and a primary day, and Mark Pacheco was running for Congress. And I can remember standing holding a Mark Pacheco for Congress sign when I got a phone call from my son saying, Dad, you're not going to believe this. What happened? A plane just hit, you know, the World Trade Center. And we went back to Mark's campaign office, and we all huddled around the television watching in disbelief. And in Vinny, going with Vinny to Cape Verde and to Brava and to seeing his parents' house, the home where he was when he was born. And then I just had the honor last week in Lisbon to show him my grandmother's home, the home that my grandmother was born in Lisbon. So we are very, very good friends. And regardless of party affiliation, Vinny is from the minority party. We're trying to persuade him otherwise, Mark and I, but we haven't gotten there yet. But it doesn't matter. 16 years. Only 16 years, but we're getting there. Slow. Donaldo, what happened? Yeah. You know, I was so thrilled because we got along, and he was one of my best friends in the House when we shared all his years that he was in the House of Representatives and I was in the House, that when he announced he was going to run for Senate President, I was not shy. Didn't matter.
Senate, not Senate President.
Senate, yeah, not Senate President. Senate, just the Senate. I was not shy. You know, I publicly made it clear that I was helping and going to support Vinny DiMacedo, and I'm so thrilled that he's joined Mark and I in the Senate. And we're the first time in history we have three senators of Portuguese descent in the Massachusetts State Senate. The very first Portuguese was a woman who actually held my seat in Fall River, Mary Fonseca. Mary Fonseca served for 32 years. Actually, she wasn't just the first Portuguese American senator. She was the first woman senator. And she broke new grounds. 1950, I think 52 to 82, she served like 30 years in the Massachusetts State Senate, and she was quite a woman. She was known for her hats. And anybody from Fall River knew she always wore those hats. But she was responsible for filing the legislation that made it illegal to fire a woman teacher when she became pregnant. It's hard to believe that if you were a female teacher and you became pregnant, you were dismissed of your roles. And that's something I learned about Senator Mary Fonseca. But rest assured that we will continue to work hard on all of your behalf. We have fun, but we work hard. We try not to take ourselves too seriously, but we take our jobs very, very seriously. So thank all of you for honoring me, for being here today. And I hope we're going to have a chance for a dialogue and maybe have some questions and answers. But thank you all. It's really an honor and pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Rodriguez. Yes, we're going to have a discussion and open floor for questions that we'll do after the last and not least, Senator Mark Pacheco.
Thank you very much, Harold. Just as Harold got up, Vinny leaned over to me and said, "I think you're next." That's what we love about him. Let me just begin also by thanking Dana Malafaria for his tremendous leadership at this university. this university that I call the anchor for economic development in southeastern Massachusetts. It's really changed this whole region because of the leaders that have served here, making a difference in, and we talk about public service, but countless numbers of graduates that have gone out to literally change the world as public servants, teachers, social workers, political leaders have graduated from this university under the tutelage of so many professors that are here, public servants, President Malafaria, other members of the administration. It's just an extraordinary place. It's a tremendous honor for me and for all of us to be here and to enjoy this honor that is bestowed upon us this evening. It's also an honor for me to be with these two colleagues of mine. They're just amazing individuals. Forget about senators. Senators, the three of us, people could look and say, "Oh, not too sure." No, all of us, I think, try our hardest to make a difference for the people that we represent. But as individuals, people that care about their family, care about their community, they're just first class. And I'm so honored and humbled to be able to serve with them. Mike, made a reference to Vinny in being a member of the minority party. Let me tell you something. If we had more Democrats and Republicans in the United States Congress, in the Massachusetts legislature, in governmental bodies all across this country, we would get a whole lot more done, because it's not about party, it's about the people. And that's what I'm so honored to say about Vinny. So thank you for being the kind of Republican that you are. So let me just say this, because my colleagues talked about their upbringing, and I think we're all products of that in one way or the other, no matter where we come from. I think the important thing that Dana has done, and I think Michael and Vinny have done, and I try to do, is not to forget where you come from, no matter what it is that you do. I can remember growing up in a working class family. My dad worked swing shift, 7 to 3, 2 weeks, 3 to 11, 2 weeks, and 11 to 7, 2 weeks. And in those weeks when he worked 11 to 7, at 7 o'clock, when he got off his shift, he went down to the Bloom bus station and drove bus. And in those afternoons, when he got out at 3, he'd go down to the bus station and he'd drive the afternoon runs for the bus company. My mom was an office worker, did so since I was a young boy. I can remember going to one of the first baseball games the first baseball game I ever went to, at Fenway Park. My mom got me in because she not only worked full-time in a medical office, but she worked at the concessions on the weekend. And I can remember my dad coming home. He was a press operator with scars up and down his arms, working in that plastic molding company. And my mom working in a medical office building, and then later on working at the hospital, and working her way up to be one of the first women administrators in the hospital, running the admissions unit for Morton Hospital. many years ago. I'm still fortunate enough to have them. My dad, 86 years young, and I can never get the right age out of my mother. But, I'm so proud of them, what they taught me over the years. I think, we learned from our families what was really important in terms of those core values. And for me, when Dana referred to me, I listened to the word he used. He said, relentless. I have been relentless from time to time. But when I have been, it's because I've thought about the injustice that was there relative to OSHA requirements that were not even thought of years ago. When I went to visit my dad at the shop, coming in the evening with a lunch bucket to bring to him, lunch pail to bring to him. When I would see my dad, and my mother would bring me to the shop so I could say hi, because he was working all the time. And to see the problems he had to deal with, because you had laws that weren't there to protect the average worker. And when somebody tells me about women's rights, I look at my dad, I look at my mom, and what she went through time and time again, trying to work her way up to a promotion, only to be shot down, not because she wasn't qualified, but because it wasn't her time, And so those issues drove me as a young boy growing up and then becoming politically involved in some campaigns. And I saw some injustice at a local school system in Taunton. And that's why I first ran for office, actually, believe it or not 27 years ago in the legislature, but going all the way back to 1979 when I started elected office service. And every 2 years since then, my name's been on the ballot. And the two things that I continue to try to bring to whatever office I've had the great fortune to serve in, whether it was school committee, state representative, or state senate, is to continue to have that passion to remember where I came from and the persistence to continue to try to make a difference. I've been so honored to have the opportunity to make a difference in a lot of ways. We've passed together some tremendous legislation that has changed the lives of countless numbers of people. But the thing that makes me keep going and continue to want to have the rest of my life be in the form of public service in some way or another is that I love when you can touch the individual lives of people. When I get that call from a woman who needs some help, or a gentleman that has had an issue, or a small business owner, and you're able to work with them and change things for them, which changes their life and their future, that stays with you forever. And so that's a little bit about me, and I want to thank all of you, because I know I look out at this audience and I see so many people that are doing the same thing in your own way. You're continuing to change the lives of countless numbers of people. Please keep doing it. We'll keep doing it, and we'll have a better future together. Thank you.
Senator Pacheco, Senator Rodriguez, and Senator De Macedo. The honor is indeed ours in having you here. I have to tell you that as I listen to your stories, then I understand the sort of pedagogical nature of this thing, how we can learn from others' experiences. And I also have to tell you that I find that just in listening to your experiences that the intersecting factor in all of it, I think, is a sense of moral rectitude. There's a Japanese author that said that Rectitude is the power to take a certain course of action based upon reason, without wavering. To die when it's right to die, when it's necessary to die, and to fight when to fight is necessary. And I see this as the actions that you're taking. And we thank you very much for coming down to this event. And having said that, I'm going to turn over to President Faria, who's going to be moderating the panel. And we have some microphones, I think, going around if people want to ask a couple of questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joel. Well, I think you've heard and have a collective sense of what these three gentlemen are about. And, you know, from working class families, men who feel a need and a compulsion to give back, and have done that through their work in the legislature. We have, what I really want to do is to give them an opportunity to really engage with you. If you know anything about people who do public service and their commitment to this, they want to hear from others. So I'm not going to ask them questions and lead this discussion in that way. I think what I really would like to do is to give you the opportunity to ask questions and give each of them an opportunity to answer. So you can ask a specific question to a specific individual or a general question, and we'll have the three of them give some answers to that. So with that, the floor is yours. Who's first? I don't want to act like teacher and call on you.
But he
will.
Thank you. Brian Frederick, Chair of the Political Science Department here at Bridgewater State University. My question is related to the motivation that got you into politics and how there's sort of a disconnect. What you described as were some very honorable motives, some things that we all would feel are laudable about why people should get involved in public service. Yet there seems to be a growing sense that politicians, both at the state legislative level and at the national level, are in it for their own self-interest, that they've forgotten about the people, and that cynicism is on the rise, and levels of distrust in government officials is increasing every day. So I was wondering, what do you think you as public officials can do, and that we as citizens can do to help bridge the gap that there seems to be between the citizens and the population and politicians about the role of government and about the honesty and integrity of our political system?
Great question, Brian. Any of you want to begin?
Let me just say that we all feel that in representing our constituencies. And I think one of the things you're starting to see that is taking place right now in the Massachusetts Senate, and I want to give credit to Michael Rodrigues and our new Senate President, Stan Rosenberg, who started these Commonwealth conversations. As a matter of fact, Michael got back from Lisbon, and he's had 2 nights in a row in different parts of the state doing exactly that, having a Commonwealth conversation with residents across the state. We're going to have one here on March 11th. We will have a Commonwealth conversation here at Bridgewater State University so that the citizen, no matter who they are, no matter what their role is in society, can come here and meet and talk to and have a point of view with the President of the Massachusetts State Senate and all the senators that will be here. That's just one of the things that are happening. But I must tell you, this university and universities across our state have a very special role in this, in what you're doing in your department. Have a very special role, I think, in rebuilding that trust, because a lot of it has to do with just people understanding how a nation was founded. They were a little ticked off back then too, you know. And over the years, when you look throughout our history, we've had plenty of examples of how the citizenry came forward, working with their elected officials, sometimes in an easy way, and sometimes using the truck to stop up the sewerage system so that people would understand what was going on. I don't think it's just, this generation or this time in our history. I think it's happened over the period of time in our history. I think we just get the information instantaneously now. We get it very quickly based upon social media, and this is also an opportunity, and that's why there's, Michael can speak to it, but there's a way for people to connect through social media back to us so we can keep that dialogue open. I think the more people understand about the complexity of some of the problems we deal with today, then hopefully we can try to figure out a way to work on solving these problems together.
And I just want to follow up because, and I understand the perception, and for those of us in politics, you are being very gracious and honoring us, but the reality is the title politician is not necessarily a favored title. But I think it's because there's 200 of us, and we're very public figures. So when one has something goes wrong, it gets in the paper and all the controversy. And then, but there's 200 of us. I think anywhere there's 200, you're going to find some problems. Nobody's perfect. My experience is the majority. As I said, I don't necessarily agree all the time with my colleagues, but the large and vast majority of them do have sincere principles, and that they are honest people that really do want to do better. They may disagree with how we get there, but generally the majority of them are very good. It's the few that ruin it for the majority, and so I don't think you're necessarily getting a real picture. The press loves to sensationalize the controversy, and for those of us who choose public service, and rightfully so, we are representing people's interests. And so, when we do, if we do, and unfortunately you've never seen that with us, but if something we're done wrong, then it becomes a story. So 99% of them not, and it's the few, but you hear it this month, and then 3 years later you hear it again, and then 2 years later you hear it again, and then you assume that everybody that's in politics is not genuine. And I think, Dana, you can speak to that. The majority of them are actually very decent people who are just trying to do better, do better and give back to their community.
Yeah, I think Vinny and both Mark, they're correct. I mean, in our profession, and there are 200 state legislators, 160 state representatives, 40 state senators. I always say 195 of them are the hardest working, most dedicated people I've ever worked with. We have a handful of bums. We do. So does the academic profession. So does the legal profession, right? So does the accounting profession. The difference is we are in the public realm. So those handful of bums cast a broad brush for all of us. I am so proud of my colleagues. Every day we go to work and we work with just the most wonderful people that I've ever been associated with. And the few that aren't that good, guess what? 2 years from now, their name's on the ballot and they get voted out. I think 60% of the Massachusetts House has less than 5 years. So there's plenty of turnover. There are some of us, Mark and I, that have been around for a while, but you know what? Every 2 years, our name's on the ballot, and we have to prove to our constituents. And Mark said social media. We live in a world of, we want instant information and instant gratification, and it's so easy to if something's wrong, if somebody makes a mistake, and if you're an elected official and you make a mistake, you are everywhere in no time, flat. Before I get home, if I make a mistake now, if I say something I shouldn't say now, it'll be all over Twitter and Facebook. When I get home, my wife and kids will know about it already. What did you say? What did you do? That's just the world we live in. But also, what's happening in Washington now, where it's really a shame that we live in a country where our Congress is so divided that nothing happens. And I didn't believe, until I went to Washington a couple of years ago and spent a little time there, I didn't, because we work in a legislature where Vinnie sponsors a piece of legislation, he comes up with a good idea. It doesn't matter he's a Republican. If it's a good idea, we're gonna do it. And it's gonna, you know, but until I went down there and said, well, this is real. Is that they don't look at the merits of the proposal, they look at who sponsored it, whose idea was it, and if it's somebody who's not in power, then it's not a good idea. That's wrong, and it's really a shame. But I can tell you that's not happening in Massachusetts. You know, and I'm very, very, very proud of that.
Thank you, Joe.